Today is going to be something of a throwback. Not only am I going to be talking about a really stupid review for a video game, but it's an older game that just saw its full release, so reviews are starting to come out for it. And of course, the publication and the author couldn't leave their fucking politics out of it. No. That'd be too easy. They got a virtue signal to make themselves look good. Otherwise, what's the point, really? The review in question is PC Gamer's Rimworld review when it got posted onto their website, because no one reads PC Gamer magazine anymore. And that's not a bash on anyone that actually still does. That magazine has long since pretty much died. I'm actually amazed that it's still in magazine form, because I wouldn't think that there'd be enough people that still read it, but I guess I was wrong. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing because most of it is okay or has enough of an understanding of the game to a small degree to be close enough. Like how they say that Rimworld is a game about establishing a colony on a remote planet sometime in the distant future. That's not right, but it's also not so far out that I'm going to say that they are completely and totally wrong. They have the basic idea here, but it is wrong, and it does help establish a thing that I'm going to say later on. The part that really just got me, and I'm pretty sure this is the same for everybody, is this particular paragraph here. There are some peculiar aspects to this approach to character generation, though. And the previous paragraph, or a couple paragraphs, he talked about how characters can have these traits that seem to contradict themselves, and all these kind of small little things that help build a character, because the characters are all randomly generated, and this sort of sets the AI and the actions that a character would do were they left unattended. Each character gets 3 traits, things like obsessive, lazy, or misogynist. One of the modifiers is gay, but straight isn't. That's just the default, which is painfully heteronormative and outdated for a game about the far-flung future. Look, it doesn't matter what time you're in. In order for a species, a race, whatever, to continue to propagate and exist, that would require the majority of the species to be heterosexual. Unless it is a species that has specifically evolved to, I don't know, reproduce through mitosis, or it is a species that has evolved with only one gender or sex, then it has to be a heterosexual species. It doesn't matter the fucking time period. Unless you're saying that somehow in the future sexuality is purely a choice and you choose to be gay or straight, which is what the fucking Christian right used to say, and still does to an extent. I really don't understand what the point of that sentence was. They say like being straight is somehow a bad thing, or the majority of the characters being straight is a bad thing. It's like, you go to Japan, they make a product and tailor it specifically for Japanese natives. You then are offended that the product made specifically for the 99.9% of the population doesn't cater to you. No shit, Sherlock. Being straight, and I'm going to be absolutely generous. I'm going to give like the biggest statistic there is out there. Being straight is roughly 90% of the population. There's only about 10% of the population that's gay or bi. Of course, straight is the perceived norm or the perceived regular because it is the majority. That's like saying that people who can walk are the perceived norm and those in wheelchairs are the ones that are less common, ergo they're going to typically cater things to people that walk. That's not saying that people who need wheelchairs are wrong or bad. That is just saying the expectation is that the majority of people will walk. So we are going to make this thing for people that walk. You get what I'm saying here? I've never understood this aspect of social justice, how it's bad to have a thing for the majority. That doesn't negate that the minority exists. It's just that it's made with the majority in mind because that's who the bigger portion is. Fucking idiots. Other aspects of queerness are included, but in equally reductive ways, like a character's backstory discussing that they're transgender, proof of which being their, quote, dressing up in their mother's clothes as a child, end quote. All of which leaves a bit of a bad taste in the mouth. I would like to point out, and this has been pointed out, and they ended up changing it later on, that every character backstory in the game, because these are all randomly generated characters, there are some set characters that can be included in as you play through. You might get a character that has existed in this world. It was pre-generated to a degree, and they will have a backstory. Any character that has a backstory is from some form of crowdfunding or higher tier purchase, where the person who paid that higher amount is the one that wrote that character's backstory. And a very high chunk of the characters that have backstories that list them as transsexual were written by actual transsexual people. Oops. This seems to be the whole Monkey Island's Guybrush Threepwood thing. And this happens a lot more than you think. Now, the Guybrush Threepwood and Galbrush Threepwood theory is that Guybrush is an incompetent, bumbling moron who gets the shit beat out of him and has a lot of horrible stuff happen to him, but he is allowed to grow and progress as a character to go from bumbling moron up to leader of the group towards the end of the game in the Monkey Island game and series. This would not be allowed if it was Galbrush Threepwood, because it would be seen as offensive to have Galbrush be this inferior person, to have all these horrible things happen to her, yet it's perfectly fine when it happens to Guybrush. And we've seen this time and again where things can happen to a guy that are just accepted, but if that same thing happens to a woman, and this is all fictional media I'm talking about, if that same thing happens to a woman, suddenly you have committed a sin and you should be punished for daring to say that women are people too, or in this case, transgender people are people too. Humanity doesn't exist in this weird, perfect little bubble. And that's the biggest issue I have with what they're trying to do with writing characters right now. If it's a guy character, they seem to be, oh, well, anything can happen to that character. We can beat the shit out of him. We can have him be an idiot. We can have him be a horrible human being. That's fine. No one's going to make us think about that. Second, you do that with a woman, trans character, minority, anything like that, there is a huge controversy because that is, to these people, seen as making them inferior or setting a bad example. No, that's fucking making them human, you idiot. Humans aren't perfect. They are very flawed. They should be allowed to be flawed and grow, or be flawed and continue to be flawed. That's called good writing. It doesn't matter what you are, it matters who you are. But then what do I know? I just believe in equality and treating everyone equally. Ha ha! Back to the article. It feels odd to have some traits sat alongside each other. Misogyny next to ugly, hardworking next to sociopath. These things are not alike, but they are placed in the character generator with equal importance. Yeah, because the characters are all random. They're all completely random. I know it seems paradoxical to have two exact opposite traits that work with each other, but that's how the game is designed, and it makes for some interesting characters that do a lot of weird shit when left to their own. Also, the thing that I said that they did to update the article, this was about 24 hours after it was put on their website, because the game's developer actually mentioned this, and a lot of other people did to PC Gamer as well, to the point where they had to add this. Editor's note, some of Rimworld's backstories were created by Kickstarter backers. That is so dismissive a response. That is so demeaning and just so minuscule we're just putting this here so we don't get in legal trouble. Are you fucking kidding me? Some of. In Kickstarter, I can understand them saying Kickstarter backers because it's saying the whole crowdfunding or higher tier purchase backers, that's fine. But some of. Not, oops, we were wrong. Just, oh, some of these backstories were written by other people. What are you going to do? God, I hate these. And later on in the article, it talks about how this is what leads me to believe that they didn't play the game or didn't play much of the game, because they talk about how you have to, if you have a farm, you have to click on each individual plant individually to get the people to farm it, and they are complaining that that is tedious and seems unintuitive. Well, yeah, it does seem tedious and unintuitive. That's why they don't have you do that. The only reason that that would happen is if you fucked up. And the game gives incredibly detailed tutorials and explanations for what everything fucking does. You didn't play the game, you just went in expecting it to work like how other games have worked. It didn't, and you're upset because you didn't bother to fucking read. And that's the whole point that I was making before with the with what I was saying, that about the setting for the game, that it is a colony creation game, about how they think it's establishing a colony on a remote planet. That it's technically right enough so that it seems like they know what they're talking about, but it is actually wrong. And it's these minor details, these minor things that make me go, oh, okay, so you looked at the box art, you read the synopsis of the game, you've heard other people talk about it, you know about its existence, you didn't put much time into actually playing it, and then just shat this out. Now, if they had just kept the whole queerness part aside, I probably wouldn't be as mad at this review as I am. Because I've seen plenty of incompetent people before. I mean, fuck, I remember the Cuphead tutorial video. That was beautiful. But adding that in, and then it seems like that is a factor in the score. Because as it stands right now, this is the lowest review for the game. And it it makes a point to talk about this for an entire paragraph. So especially towards the end where they say that the reason that it's lower is because of a weak story generator, which is basically code for I have no imagination or creativity. I was expecting the game to do that for me. So I'm left to believe that the lack of or inappropriate queerness is why the game got a lower rating. And that is not something that should affect a game. But more representation in a fictional game set in, what is it, 4000 AD? Yeah. I get so sick and tired of this bullshit. You go into a game expecting there to be the kind of representation that you want. You then get upset that the thing that you expected, with no reason to expect that, by the way, isn't there, and then you dock it for it not being there. I see this so many times. It's gotten to the point where it is mind-numbing. And I know why they did this with Rimworld, of all games, because, well, it's sort of a two-factor thing. Rimworld still stands as one of the most popular games ever released on Steam. It has some of the highest review counts. It has some of the highest overall positive review counts. And it is just a gigantic, massive player-based game. This is something that even AAA numbers can't compete with, and yet it's just a mostly one-man indie team game that has just destroyed all expectations. It's popular. It's well known. It's talked about all the time. Let's shit on it to get some good old-fashioned hate views. And then the second reason, and this is what I think is the actual bigger reason, is the developer is not in the circle that the gaming media and the indie developers tend to all be in a bit of a bubble with. It's very well known that a lot of indie developers and a lot of the gaming media all travel in the same pack. To what degree is absolutely questionable, but they're all in the same friend circle where they talk with each other on personal levels, they hang out, they fuck, they've straight up admitted this. The developer of Rimworld is not in that circle, and he has made a game that outshines pretty much anyone in that circle, and that pisses these people off. How dare some outsider come in, do his own thing, and be more popular than they could ever hope to be? We must shut him down. And I think that that's what this is, and they know that they can't go on a direct shutdown thing because that would make them look bad. So they do shit like this, where they attack the game over queerness, where they do reviews like this, where they give a still within the realm of reality score, but a obvious lower, we're trying to have an impact on the sales score. A little late for that, by the way. It's just jealousy and stupidity. That's what this amounts to. And then they threw in the politics thing to try and get the right people upset at the game. Because it did a no-no. And they should be shamed for doing the no-no. I really want to see the gaming media better, an actual gaming media that looks at the quality of a thing, not does it match up with my personal beliefs. I'm just so tired of this, and I don't think we're going to see any kind of change in 2019. I'd love to be wrong. The only thing I'm expecting is that the AAA market is going to take a major hit, which is going to be a massive boon for the indie market, which to some degree might actually embolden these idiots. Oh boy. Again, I'd love to be wrong, and I'd love to see the what I'm assuming AAA crash that comes will actually affect these people too. I just don't see it coming. I don't know. Maybe sometime in the future we can actually get good quality reviews rather than judging the gayness of something to determine if it's good or not. I wish I was joking. This has been Math Machine saying, go play Rimworld. It's an actually really good game. You're going to have a ton of fun if you like these kind of management and survival games. Peace out.